Have you ever hit a financial goal, a raise, a number in savings, a milestone, and felt relieved for about 5 minutes before immediately thinking about the next one? Have you ever noticed that the amount of money you once thought would make you feel okay keeps quietly moving further away, like a horizon you can never quite reach? Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important money questions most people never actually sit down to answer. How much is enough? And more importantly, why is it so hard to know? Because I don't think this is a math problem. I think it's a values problem. And once you understand the difference, everything about how you relate to money starts to shift. The question nobody actually answers. Here's the honest truth about most people's relationship with money. They're working toward a number they've never clearly defined. They're chasing something they haven't described. They have a vague sense that more would be better, and they're not quite there yet, that security is somewhere ahead of them. But they can't tell you precisely what they're actually trying to build. And I say that without judgment because I think it's nearly universal. We're all very good at making money, spending money, worrying about money, and comparing our money situation to other people's. We're much less practiced at sitting quietly and asking, what is this money actually for? What would enough look like for my life on my terms? That question sounds simple, but it's not. Part of why it's hard is that nobody taught us how to answer it. Most of what we learned about money growing up was about getting it, managing it, not wasting it, or being afraid of not having it. Almost none of it was about defining the relationship between money and a well lived life. So we inherited a default. More is better and more is safer. And if you have more, you've succeeded. And if you have less, something's gone wrong. But more isn't a destination, it's just a direction. And you could walk in a direction forever without ever arriving anywhere. So if you think about the last time you set a financial goal, whether it was a saving target, an income number, a debt payoff milestone, when you hit it, ask yourself honestly, how long did that satisfaction last? Usually there's a quick shot of adrenaline and feeling of pride or success, and then it fleets and it's gone. And the goalposts move, right? It's not because you're greedy, it's not because you're ungrateful, it's because the goal was never fully defined in the first place. So if we think about once I make X amount, then I'll feel okay. Have you ever said that to yourself? Because if you did, I'm going to guess that you've also, whenever you've gotten that point, that number probably changed several times in your life without you consciously choosing to change it. So if we're chasing something that we think is a destination for a feeling that we're going to get, but we're attaching a money goal to it, the problem is that feeling is not ultimately related to the money. And so the absence of a clear enough means that you're running a race with no finish line. And that's exhausting in a way that's hard to name. So, what money is actually for? Let me offer a frame that I think changes how this whole conversation feels. Money's a tool, it's not the point. So, that might sound obvious, but the way that most of us operate day to day, you would not guess that we actually believe that. We treat money more like a scoreboard than a tool. We use it to measure how we're doing relative to last year, relative to our peers, relative to some imagined version of success we absorbed somewhere along the way. But when you treat money as a scoreboard, you can never really win because someone always had more points. When you treat money as a tool, the question changes completely. You stop asking, how much do I have? And start asking, what am I building with it? And the answer to that question, what money is actually for, is at its core three things: safety, options, and freedom. Safety is being able to cover your needs without panic. It's the ability to handle an unexpected expense without your life unraveling. It's not having to make desperate decisions because of financial pressure. Safety is foundational, and it is genuinely underrated. If you don't have it, it's almost impossible to think clearly about anything else. Options are the ability to make choices, to say yes to something because you want to, and no to something because you don't. Options are what give you agency over your own life, the ability to take a risk, change a direction, leave something that isn't working. Freedom, at its deepest, is the ability to design your life around what actually matters to you, not around financial panic, not around a job you hate because you need the benefits, not around keeping up an appearance of success that has nothing to do with how you actually feel inside. Money doesn't buy happiness in some abstract sense, but it absolutely buys safety, options, and freedom. And those three things are closely connected to well being, agency, and a life that feels like yours. So if you think about the absence of financial safety, and how that creates background noise for you. It is sort of this underlying hum whenever you're in that situation. If you feel uncertain about your job security and that's your only income, if someone's been laid off, if you aren't making enough to pay bills, any of those things that either put you in a position of lack of safety or at least the threat of lack of safety, that low grade hum of anxiety is always running, even when things seem fine, and that will wear you down. If you think of a time when money gave you a choice that you might not have had otherwise, maybe you had some extra money so you could decide, do we take a family vacation or do I buy that new thing that I wanted or whatever? And you have a couple of different choices. And that's powerful and exciting. Or maybe a time when a lack of money removed a choice. You really wanted to go option B here, but you got stuck with option A. You did the staycation instead of the vacation because money was tight. And then there's the freedom piece. What would you do differently if money were not the primary constraint? What does that tell you about what your values are and what's important to you? The distinction between wanting more money because you want a better life versus wanting more money because you're afraid or because someone else has it or because you never stop to ask what you're actually building is pretty significant. And it's certainly something important to sit with. So, the difference between security and freedom. I want to pull on one distinction that I think gets missed a lot in financial conversations. There's a difference between financial security and financial freedom, and most people are trying to build freedom before they built security. Financial security is having enough that you're not operating from fear. It's a solid foundation, emergency savings, manageable debt, consistent income, the ability to cover your life without it being a crisis. Financial freedom is having enough that you have genuine choice, real flexibility, the ability to make decisions based on what you want rather than what you need. Both are worth having, no doubt, but they're not the same thing. And chasing freedom without security first tends to produce anxiety, not liberation, because every risk feels existential when the foundation is shaky. So, we all have that instinct to want financial freedom. Everybody wants to be able to do whatever they want and not worry about money. But the fact that we use not worry about money in the same phrase shows that if we try to do it before establishing security and we want to, have passive income and escape the grind, it's understandable, but that sequence matters. Security first isn't boring. It's what makes everything else possible. It changes the way every decision feels. You know, I know somebody in my life who grew up financially wealthy as a child and would never need to want for anything. And her take was, geez, if there's something you want to do, why not just follow your passion? Just run out and go do it. Start a business, do this, do that. And I thought to myself, that's so small minded because it comes from a frame of reference of you have unlimited chances, you have an unlimited safety net. If you fall, there's someone there to catch you. You mess up, you could just keep swinging. If you can't put food on the table, if the risk you take doesn't work out, that conversation and that trajectory and that decision making process looks a little bit different. So, where you're coming from, having that security matters a lot. And that's what financial security actually looks like. If you think about it in your own life, right? It's not a dollar amount, it's a feeling. When would you feel the floor beneath your feet? When would you feel as though I need to worry about things versus, okay, I have enough. And I know people with a lot of money that are financially anxious all the time. And it's almost laughable when you compare it to other people I know that really struggle. And if something happened to one of their paychecks, they wouldn't be able to pay their bills. But it's all a frame of mind. So the person who has security and no freedom is constrained. The person who has freedom but no security is anxious. The goal is both, but you have to build them in order. Why the target keeps moving. So, if money is a tool for safety, options, and freedom, and if those are achievable, why does the target keep moving? Why do so many people hit milestones that should feel like a rival and end up feeling like they're still not there? Well, a few forces are working against you here. And I think naming them honestly is more useful than pretending they don't exist. The first is lifestyle creep. When your income goes up, your expenses tend to go up with it, often quietly, automatically, without any conscious decision. You get a raise, you upgrade the car, you get a slightly nicer apartment, you eat out more, you buy the thing that you used to wait on. None of these are bad, but the net result is that your financial cushion doesn't actually grow, even though your income did, because your needs or your expectations grew to match. The second is hedonic adaptation. We're wired as humans to return to a baseline of satisfaction. Something new feels extraordinary, and then it becomes normal. The raise, the car, the house, the vacation, it was exciting, and now it's just life. So you need more to get back to that feeling of progress, and the cycle continues. The third is comparison. We calibrate our sense of enough relative to the people around us or the people we're watching online. It's almost impossible to feel like you have enough when the reference point keeps shifting upward. Comparison doesn't just make you feel behind, it makes enough structurally impossible to reach because there'll always be someone ahead. And then there's fear. Even people who are genuinely doing okay, by any objective measure, can carry a deep fear that it might not last, that something will go wrong, that the safety is temporary, that they need more runway, more buffer, more security, because what they have might not be enough when it actually matters. The fear is real, no doubt, and in some cases it is rooted in real experience. But in many cases, the fear is decoupled from the actual risk. It's running on its own fuel, and no amount of money until you name it and examine it will make it quiet down. So if you think about a moment of lifestyle creep from your own life, maybe there was something that you thought, oh, if I could just get to that level, I'd be really, really happy. And then you got that level, you got that car, you got that new watch, you took that vacation, you did the things you wanted to do. And then you adjusted to it so quickly that you barely noticed it happening. And now that's the new floor. That's the new level. Anything below that and you're suffering and you're failing, it only has to keep moving up. That's a really tough thing to keep going. So with a raise, they say on average, extra money will motivate somebody for an average of a week or two. After that, you've now incorporated that into your new financial paradigm. And whatever you got as a raise, you've already forgotten about. It does not motivate people in the workplace. It's like number 7 or 8 on the list of things that motivate people. So the irony is, oftentimes companies or bosses will want to give a raise with the idea to incentivize. And it's great. You have to get paid enough. Nothing wrong with a raise, but it doesn't motivate people long term. So if you get paid significantly more, you'll somehow still feel the same level of financial pressure 6 months later, because if your expenses rise with it, then you're still in the same place relative to where you were, but now the stakes are higher. Online comparison. This is one of the biggest demons of today's day and age. The effect of seeing someone else's curated financial life, right? They got everything: the house, the car, the vacation photos. What you don't realize is they're up to their eyeballs in debt, but they're never going to show you that. And how you feel about your own situation. So it's going to affect you. It's going to make you feel bad, like you're missing out, like other people have more. Then there's the fear piece. Is the anxiety about money actually tracking reality for you? Or has it become self-sustaining? And how do you tell the difference? When self-worth gets tangled with net worth, here's where this gets personal. And I want to be honest about it because I think it's the part of the conversation that matters most. For a lot of people, money is not just a financial issue. It's an identity issue. What you earn, what your job title is, what your home looks like, what your car is, what neighborhood you live in, what kind of vacation you can afford. These things carry meaning beyond their practical function. They're signals to other people and to yourself about whether you're succeeding, whether you are enough. And when self-worth gets tangled with net worth, a few things happen. Talking about money becomes threatening because the conversation isn't just about numbers, it's really about the adequacy of you as a person. Earning less than someone else doesn't just feel like a financial gap, it feels like a verdict. Making a financial mistake isn't just a setback, it becomes evidence of something. And this is where money scripts come in. Money scripts are the beliefs you absorbed about money, usually early, often implicitly, from your family, your culture, your experiences with scarcity or abundance. Things like money is security, money is freedom, money is dangerous, rich people are greedy, wanting more is selfish. You should be grateful for what you have. You can always earn more if you just work harder. Money doesn't grow on trees. We've all heard those. Most of us are still operating from scripts we never consciously chose. And those scripts shape every financial decision we make, not just the big ones, the small ones too. What we avoid talking about, what we feel guilty buying, what feel like we have to prove, what we're afraid to want. So think about what you learned about money growing up, not from a lecture or a book or anything academic, but from what you observed and absorbed. What was the conversation around the dinner table in your house? Was it tight? Was money tight? Was it volatile? Was it something that was unpredictable? Was money a source of shame or pride, or maybe it was a source of conflict? Nothing gets in the middle of a relationship more so than money. And how has that shaped the way that you behave with money now? Is there anything that you can think about in terms of your beliefs about money or the way you behave with money that you could trace back to them, including the things that you avoid, the patterns that you repeat, the feelings that come up when you look at your accounts? And then there's the identity piece. Think about how you feel when someone asks what do you work for, or asks about your home. And then there's the identity piece. Think about how you feel when someone asks what you do for work or asks about your home or your income. What's that feeling and what's underneath it? And then there's the difference between being financially responsible because it aligns with your values versus being financially anxious because your worth feels conditional on a number. Defining enough, here's the practical part. So, how do you actually answer the question? How do you define for yourself enough? For yourself on your own terms in a way that's grounded in your actual life? Well, first, I want to say this is not a one time exercise. It's a conversation you return to. What enough looks like at 30 is different what it looks like at 45 or 60. Your needs change, your values clarify, your life changes shape. So think of it less as finding the answer and more as building a relationship with a question. But here are some places to start. Start with the safety number first. What does financial security actually look like practically in your life? Not an abstract goal, a concrete picture. What would you need to be true for you to feel a floor beneath your feet, stable, comfortable? Name it, write it down. It's not your ceiling, that's your foundation. Then look at your spending as a values audit. Where does your money actually go right now? Not where you think it goes. People would be surprised when they actually look, but where it actually goes. And when you look at that, does it reflect what you actually care about? Or is money flowing toward things that are supposed to feel good, but don't really? Ask yourself, am I buying relief or am I buying a better life? A lot of spending is designed to relieve anxiety briefly and temporarily. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's worth knowing which category something falls into. A purchase that genuinely improves your life is different from a purchase that makes the discomfort go away for a weekend. And then name what freedom would actually give you, not the abstract version, the specific version. If you had financial freedom, what would you do with Tuesday? What would change? Who would you spend more time with? What would you stop doing? That specificity helps you understand what you're actually working toward and whether you actually need more money to get there or just more clarity. And notice the comparison source. Who are you measuring yourself against and why? Is that a comparison that's helping you grow towards something you want, or is it just making you feel behind? You can choose your reference points more intentionally than you probably think. And then you need to have the conversation you've been avoiding with a partner, with yourself, with a financial professional if that's relevant. Money avoidance, not looking at the accounts, not making the plan, not talking about it, always makes the anxiety worse. The thing under the fear is usually more manageable than the fear itself. So here's the one thing I want you to hold on to from all of that. Defining enough is not about settling. It's not about giving up ambition or pretending you don't want more. It's about being clear-eyed enough to know what you're actually chasing and honest enough to ask whether the path you're on is actually taking you there. Because more money will not fix a lack of clarity about what you want. It'll amplify whatever's already there. If you're anxious with the money you have, more money will give you more to be anxious about. If you're clear about what you're building and why, more money becomes genuinely useful, a tool in service of something real. I want to leave you with something honest. Most of us will spend more time this week thinking about how to make more money than we will thinking about what we actually want to do with that money. And the earnings side feels urgent, it feels productive, it feels like the answer. But here's what I've come to believe. The financial clarity that changes your life is not about making more. It's about knowing what enough looks like and then building toward that with intention instead of just moving in the direction of more because it's the only direction you've been taught. So here's your one thing for this week, just one. Sit down, 10 minutes, that's all, and write down what financial security would actually look like for your life. Not a dream number, a real one. What would you need to be true for you to feel stable? What is the foundation that you're actually trying to build? That's it. Not a budget, not a plan, just clarity about the foundation. Because once you know what security looks like, you stop treating every financial decision like a referendum on whether you're doing okay. You start making clearer choices. You start building towards something real instead of something abstract. And the question of enough becomes, for the first time, actually answerable.